Hey guys, Rayshawn here. I hope you are having an amazing spring so far. We have in store for you a very fun episode. Well, fun for me because sustainability is becoming an increasingly important aspect of my life. And so I thought it would be fun to talk to some of the folks on campus that are making campus a little bit more sustainable. So first up, we have Dr. Jain, who is an anesthesiologist over at MCG, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about this special organization that he founded called the Green Team, which is making not only the hospital, but the whole entire Medical College of Georgia and our health system think a little bit more strategically about the waste that they're creating and how to be more sustainable about it. So that's going to be really cool. And then we have some student leaders coming up to talk about the Food Recovery Network. And for those who are unfamiliar, this is a national program across colleges across the country, and they help take food and give it to those in need to help eliminate that waste. So we're going to talk about all those things and some other best practices for how we can stay sustainable in our personal lives. So here we go. Welcome, Ankit. Thank you for being here. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your background and kind of how you got started in the field of anesthesiology?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. Well, my background, obviously, I grew up in India, and I did my medical school back in India before I decided to come here. I also trained in anesthesiology back in India, so I kind of knew what I wanted to do before I came here. But the way our medical education system is that you have to repeat some of the education to practice in America. So, like all of the other immigrants who come with different dreams, I came in here with the dream of becoming an anesthesiologist, and to be precise, a cardiac anesthesiologist. I started my training at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. I did my anesthesiology there, and then I went to Tufts Medical Center in Boston and did my cardiac anesthesiology fellowship there. And after I graduated in 2016 actually, I came in here at Medical College of Georgia and been working here in the Department of Anesthesiology.
So what was it about anesthesiology that made you interested and wanted to pursue that versus all the other specialties out there?
It's a very interesting question because many of your students here will attest to this fact that anesthesiology is not their go-to choice initially. It is something like an elective that you have to take in your medical school training. And that is something that we had to do back in India too. The thing that I liked about anesthesiology was the fact that it's a real fusion of medicine and surgery, and you get to do a lot of procedures. You get to take care of patients in their most stressful times and really have a meaningful impact on their outcomes when you're doing something. I'm a person who wants to see the results of my actions relatively quicker. So when I give a medicine, I want to see the effect of it quicker. If I'm giving a medicine to reduce your pain, I want to see the effect of that. If I'm giving a medication to numb up your part of your body, I want to see the effect of it quickly. But the goal was to be able to put those patients in their best comfortable place for the most stressful part, which is the surgery. And I found that anesthesiology really is a fusion of everything, both medicine and surgery. And you got to know about every part of your surgery. You got to know every part of some medicine. So it's a real amazing specialty to be practicing.
And as an associate professor, how do you kind of balance teaching but also practicing? Like, what does that experience feel like for you?
So, obviously there are different kinds of work that comes into being an academic physician. And part of academia is to be actually able to train the next generation of physicians, right? Somebody trained me to be where I am, and I have to obviously return that favor and train them. So when you work in an academic hospitals, you have different kind of responsibilities. Responsibilities obviously clinically staffing the operating rooms where the bulk of the work happens. But at the same time, when you're staffing them, you're also staffing them with the trainees, so you're supervising them. So all the patients that are being taken care of by the so-called the trainee doctors are not done alone. They're obviously under the supervision of us who are fully board certified anesthesiologists. So there's a lot of education happening within the operating rooms. And then after the cases are done, there are a lot of didactics happening, lectures, problem-based learning discussions, case conferences, a lot of education happening afterwards before you practically go home.
What has it been like to you to see, I guess, the next generation kind of come into their own of like building those future doctors?
It is. I mean, it's very interesting, right? I mean, one of the hardest part of being a, academician or anybody who's training is to kind of go with the flow, right? It's hard to train a next generation if you don't move along with them. The way people have been training has been shifting away. Gone are the days when you're opening up a book and actually reading it cover to cover. Now it's all about opening up a Google homepage and like kind of trying to figure out, okay, this is what can I quickly find out. So a lot of shift has happened in the way we train them and the way we educate them. And I think it's very important for us as educators to kind of go with the flow, whether it's podcasts or whether it's learning on the go with different use of information technology as well as PowerPoint presentations or discussions or snippets. It's just so many different ways you can learn now. And if you're going to go back and kind of stick to your old ways, this generation is not going to allow it.
That makes perfect sense because even, in the less, I guess, medical side of things, because I'm in grad school myself, we've been able to learn in a bunch of different ways outside of the traditional textbooks as well. So it's been interesting.
It is. I think you have to adapt. Adapt is something that I really feel like if you don't adapt, you don't grow. Yeah.
So I guess kind of speaking of things changing, one thing that I thought was really interesting with you is that you founded the MCG Anesthesia Green Team.
Mm-hmm.
So could you tell us a little bit about that and its mission and what purpose, I guess, it serves the...
Right. So obviously, like any other, early career physician, I was finding my ground in this place. And for the most part, I was working and doing my stuff, taking care of patients, training residents. But when you work in a surrounding, you also realize what is happening around it. And I think it was a realization of my previous experience back in India, as well as what I was doing here. And one thing that really came out in a very stark contrast was the amount of waste we generate for a similar case that we do, whether it's in here versus back in my country. And it was more so about just the practices of how we do healthcare in this country. We generate a lot of waste, almost more than 50% of the waste sometimes in the operating room can be avoided and recycled.
Oh, wow.
It is. It's staggering. And if you think about it, the healthcare industry in general is responsible for around 20 to 30% of carbon emissions globally. It's just crazy. If healthcare industry itself was a nation, it would be fifth.
Wow.
In the way we generate so much of carbon emissions. So when you think about it that way, or the way I like to tell them is when you put the glasses of sustainability, you see the world with different eyes. And that's what led me to kind of take it as an action item. I felt like as a perioperative physician, as an anesthesiologist, I was at the right place at the right time to be able to see the waste happening around me, but also maybe kind of pick up those low-hanging fruits and make a change, whether it's in the work that we do in the operating rooms or the work that we do within our office spaces or our workspaces. There's a lot of intervention that we could do. So with that goal, I just reached out to my like-minded colleagues and said, this is what the issue is, this is what the problem is, we define the problem. And there is a good amount of literature on that. It's not something out of the blue. There is a lot of hospitals and healthcare systems working hard on that. So it's almost like an evidence-based practice, so to speak, right? So not out of thin air. And I reached out to them and I said, this is what the issue is, this is what my plan is, are you with me? And that led me to forming the inaugural MCG Anesthesia Green Team. And it's called MCG Anesthesia Green Team, but it truly, it is an MCG OR Green Team because we are all, as the time passed by, we realized you obviously have to work together with nurses, with physicians, with different trainees to be able to make a meaningful impact. And that's what led to the formation of MCG Anesthesia Green Team, yeah.
Can you share some of the key initiatives or impact that y'all have had so far?
So one of the most important thing that we were able to make a meaningful impact was the way we administer our inhaled anesthetics. So to kind of give you a little background for someone who is not a physician or who does not have an exposure to the operating room, every patient that we put to sleep, or what we call as general anesthesia, we use something called inhalational medications that we give them via the mask or the breathing tube that keeps them asleep. Those inhalational agents are halogenated agents, and they are inert kind of gases in a way. They don't get broken down for a long period of time. And there are various different kinds of those gases. And we can choose which we want to use and still have that enough depth of anesthesia to be able to take care of patients. And we realized just by the amount of gases that we are flowing, we can reduce or increase the amount of gases that are going to waste. So we instituted something called low flow anesthesia, in which we basically reduce the amount of flows that we're giving to the patient from whatever we were doing before to less than a liter. And it's evidence-based proof that, even when you do that, you still provide safe anesthesia to the patient. It's not like patients half awake or anything like that. Patients still under anesthesia, but you really decrease the amount of waste that you are putting out into the atmosphere. So give you a little bit more context on that. All those inhalational gases that once goes to the patients and kind of puts them sleep, after they come out of the patient, they are basically just ejected out into the atmosphere. There is no way for us to kind of waste them in any other way or capture them. Or rather, we have the technology, we just don't use it on a routine basis. So think about it this way. I give this example. If a bird was flying above the hospitals, before it starts and after it crosses the hospital, it probably is half anesthetized because all those gases are kind of going up into the atmosphere. And it's not just about that, but these gases ultimately hangs around in our atmosphere for sometimes as long as 100 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the gas that are kind of going out today may just hang around for a decade or more, or a century, and it's not broken down. And many of those gases finally affects the ozone layer. So all of these leads to ozone depletion and finally having a climate or ozone depletion and all the after effects of that. So it's invisible because obviously gases are invisible, so you can't see it. But there was a very, very easy low-hanging fruit for us to be able to do that. And we incorporated that in all of our operating rooms. Not only that led to reduced waste, but it's also led to increased savings because the less you use, the less money you are charging the patient. So that's probably one of the most common thing that we did. The other thing that we did was, like I said, operating room also generates a lot of waste. Some of that waste can be repurposed, so to speak, right? And to give you an example, many of the operating room instruments can be repurposed in a way that they can be sent back to the manufacturers and they can reprocess them, they can re-sterilize them, they can make sure they are absolutely okay according to the FDA standard to be reused in a patient and can be brought back into the circulation. If you don't do that, essentially all of that equipment is going down into the landfill. So there's reprocessing of the medical equipments that you can do. There are some things like I probably shared with you, the surgical blue wrap, which is basically a way for us to wrap the instruments and sterilize them. It's a thick fabric that we use to sterilize our instruments. It's the cleanest fabric you can have. It's the same fabric where you find your grocery tote bags made up of.
Oh, okay.
It's something like that. It's plastic though. So we had been putting them in the trash, and again, they have been going into the landfill. And as you can imagine, plastics doesn't really, degrade so easily. So it hangs around in the landfill for ages. What we've been doing at that, our nursing team and our green team champions were collecting those before the patients come to the operating room, so they're nice and clean. And then I've been working with some of the pet hospitals and animal shelters and river keeping agencies to kind of give it to them, and they've been actually repurposing those blue wraps in our community, making sleeping bags for veterans and homeless, making animal shelter, basically layering them for the animals or the pets, The hospitals have been using them again for cleaning up the beds afterwards. The river keepers had been using them for art supplies and like table covers. Some of them actually went as far as into rural Georgia, and they've been making tote bags out of it.
Oh, wow.
And they've been making bibs out of it. So any use of that before they end up in the landfill is a great use. We repurpose them. So these are some of the few interventions we did. I got you that mug out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that mug was something that our green team gave to every single provider in the anesthesiology department, whether you are a resident or a CRNA or an admin, everybody got that mug because we wanted to encourage that culture of you using reusable instead of using a styrofoam mug. So low-hanging fruits, but we did some of that and we're continuing to do some of those, yeah.
What is the response, I guess, been like from the university community and I guess MCG more specifically in seeing all of these initiatives that you've been trying to take on?
So it's been hard, I'll be honest with you, because one, all of this work has been done relatively on my own free time. Obviously, the hospital doesn't pay me to do anything like that. I am not obviously hired to as a sustainability coordinator or anything like that, right? So a lot of this work means you have to build a community. You have to generate a buzz. You have to talk to the right people. My department has been very, very supportive of that. My chairman has been very supportive of that. We have been in constant touch with the hospital leadership to actually create a more meaningful structure. And that led me to really form the first AU Sustainability Task Force. And what that
cool.
did was it had representation from a lot of groups, obviously operating room, nurses, physicians, but more importantly, facilities, environmental services, right? Nursing leadership, business leadership, operational excellence. All of them came together to actually see if we can actually make a meaningful impact within the hospital system to reduce our greenhouse emissions as well as increase our efficiency. But anything like this takes a lot of goodwill and momentum to move forward. And many times that's just a slow process.
Yeah.
So I'm still working hard on that.
But I'm sure everyone has been, I guess, at some degree grateful for the work that you've completed so far.
I think so. I think I'm sure they know that I have been doing this. If I don't know if I can probably say that I'm. They're grateful for it. Sometimes I create a little bit of a nuisance for everybody, more or less because now everybody thinks I'm the green police. So, when there's stuff happening around me, they were like, oh, well, let's not do that. He's coming. But I think that's the right thing because if people can remember me for one thing, they should obviously remember me for all the honest efforts that I had tried to make this place more efficient and sustainable.
How would you say that students, faculty, and other employees just within the AU community can incorporate sustainability just into their daily lives a little bit more?
Right, and that's a very good question. I think, what I talked to you about was very specific to what we do in the operating room. But as I mentioned before, when you put on the glasses of sustainability, you see your own area and realize, oh, what I did or what we routinely do can be done a little bit differently, right? And sustainability in healthcare is not just about reducing waste in the operating room. It really, when you start thinking about it, sustainability in general is about how you can make your workspace more efficient. Whether it's students around in the community here who live close by, just traveling by bike, every day and trying to use less car emissions, or using reusable bottles, having the university having the ability to provide multiple refilling water stations at different places so that students don't have to buy disposable bottles, right? Again, giving them opportunity to buy reusable mugs and reusable cutlery where it's possible. Things like that, right? And on a structural or a facility standpoint, just kind of making the whole workspace or the buildings more energy efficient. There is a lot of benefit in making a building more energy efficient. It obviously leads to reduced cost for the university, right? Just having energy efficient appliances or energy efficient windows, or having renewable energy to be used, installing solar panels on the top of the building. There's just so many different ways you can do it. When you start looking at your workspace around with those glasses, you will find different ways to reduce your own individual carbon footprint.
And I guess just for you personally, what are some of your best practices that you, I guess, partake in terms of sustainability and just being more environmentally conscious?
Right. So, I mean, if I kind of go back and look at my life, at home, we really practice not using disposables. It may sound very simple, but if I'm throwing a party at my home, I'm not using disposables, right? We grow our own vegetables many times during the summer, and that's a very good way to not only stay healthy but also reduce the waste. When we go to our grocery shopping, we always have a reusable grocery bag with us. We try to carry our reusable water bottles everywhere, and this holiday I also had a chance to gift my administrators a reusable cutlery set for that same reason, that if you're going for a party, try and use your own things. And then in the other ways, right? Not everybody can drive an electric vehicle. I understand that, but I try to do that. Not everybody can have the choices of making some of the energy initiatives that we can, but having a smart thermostat at home helps you, right? Small things like that. So there are many small things you can do. I wish I could install solar panels, but I have not been able to do that yet. But there are many different ways that you can do that. Yes.
Are there any final thoughts you would like to mention about the green team or just sustainability on campus in general?
I think one of my major goals would be to honestly create a buzz. And I've been able to start a conversation. So I've recently had a few meetings with the Medical College of Georgia staff to incorporate sustainability as a curriculum for medical students. Because I strongly believe that the effects of climate change is going to stay, and that will lead to a lot of medical diseases that's going to happen, right? And our future generation actually should be able to take that head on, so to speak, and understand the difference. I think I will not be mistaken. The ACGMEs or the different bodies have already said that by 2035 they would actually have a different clinical specialty dealing with just climate change.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's going to happen. And I think the sooner we talk about it in our education, the better it is for our new trainees and doctors, upcoming doctors, to learn about it. So I'm going to present a lecture to them, and then there are examples where medical students can become a part of it. And I think the same thing is true for the other students at the AU. Create a buzz. Find out what you can do in your own areas and see where you can probably put sustainability in those efforts. I don't think sustainability is a bad word to talk about. I think sometimes, recent time politics has kind of put a little bit of a taint to it, but I think we should take it out of there and we should talk about it, because it is happening no matter what. Temperatures are going crazy. The warm has become warmest, and, the cold is becoming coldest. It's just, we have a wide variety of climate swings happening, and unless we talk about it, we will really not be able to make a meaningful change. So just creating a buzz, talking just like we are talking, is probably the best way to move forward.
Well, I'm not a medical student, but taking a class like that to me does sound really interesting, because I try each year to be a little bit more, environmentally conscious than I was the year prior. So I appreciate you talking to me today to kind of get everyone on board with just be more environmentally friendly and conscious, and I think the work that you're doing is really great.
No, thank you for having me. I think it's a long journey ahead, but one step at a time.
Hello, Jaguars. My name is Dr. Sharon Dukes, and I'm the Director of Student Life and Engagement at Augusta University. The Office of Student Life and Engagement is located on the Summerville campus in the Jaguar Student Activity Center, better known as the JSAC. Our office has 6 areas: civic engagement, student leadership, student organizations, campus activities, the overall JSAC facilities, and fraternity and sorority life. Our mission is to create connected communities that offer transformative experiences and memorable moments for the students of Augusta University. We offer several activities such as Spring Fling. We host the Miss Augusta University pageant. We offer opportunities for student leaders, and we have 3 councils for fraternity and sorority life, to include the College Panhellenic Council, the Interfraternity Council, and the National Panhellenic Council. If you are interested in joining an organization or becoming engaged with our office, please visit us in the JSAC or go to our website at augusta.edu/studentlife.
All right, well, Rachel, Tom, thanks for being here with me. I know that this is a busy time of year, so I appreciate the time y'all are taking to talk a little bit about the Food Recovery Network. But diving right in, can you give those who are unfamiliar like a brief overview of what the organization is about?
Okay, so Food Recovery Network, our goal is just to not waste the leftover dining hall and hospital foods. There's a ton of food waste on campus and just in the community, and so we just want to repackage it and give it to people who need it. Right now we deliver to Garden City Rescue Mission, Grace House Augusta, and the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh, nice. And I guess what kind of inspired you guys to get involved with the organization? Like, how did you get started?
Yeah, so I actually met the founders of the Augusta University Food Recovery Network in a lab, and I just really liked the idea because instead of trying to just fundraise and start from scratch, we're just kind of using what would otherwise be wasted. So I really like that idea.
That's a little roundabout, but I went to UGA for my undergrad, and my senior year I got introduced to a organization that basically kind of did the same, where they went out into the community and repackaged food and kind of just took it to them. And I think one of the big things for me that made me really want to do it was in Athens. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but the downtown area, it's kind of like a bubble in Clark County. And like going through that organization, you go 2 blocks outside of Athens, and then there's this community that's like food depraved, and you're like, oh wow, we're tossing out our plates of food and all of this at the dining halls. Maybe I can take a couple extra minutes, take all that food that's like she was saying is getting thrown away, and kind of redistribute it. So yeah, finding that here was cool too. So
how long have y'all, I guess, both been involved with the org?
So I started in fall of 2022.
Okay.
So a couple years almost.
I was fall of 23, so just a couple of months.
So how has it been, I guess, for y'all to get to interact with these community organizations and partner with them to help, like, literally feed the community? What has that been like for y'all?
It's amazing. Like, they're always just super grateful, and they'll sometimes like write us notes of like appreciation. And the one I usually go to is I usually go to Garden City Rescue Mission. We get out, everyone's like very eager to help unload, and they always have. They actually wash our like we bring reusable packing to them, and so they'll like wash it for us and have it ready to pick up when we come back. But they're just always super grateful to get the food.
Yeah, I think that's something that's cool about this organization too. Is I've worked with Garden City Rescue Mission as well, and there's kind of the difference with other organizations. Maybe you just donate the food and then you kind of go home, but at least with this organization, being able to help package it and then delivering it to the people that are going to eat it and kind of enjoy it. You don't necessarily get to interact face to face with them, but just like seeing the impact, and like when you walk through the room, like everyone kind of lights up and they're like, oh, what's for dinner this week, kind of thing. So it's really cool to see kind of from packaging to like their table, kind of the impact that it has. Yeah.
And I guess kind of going or zooming out a little bit, are there any strategies or things you implement to kind of be, I guess, a little bit even more like environmentally conscious or eco-friendly? Like you mentioned, like reusable packaging, but are there any other strategies similar to that y'all are mindful of throughout the process?
Yeah, we definitely, the packaging was a big thing. We had started at the beginning with like all disposable But we try to get places that are relatively close on campus. Like Garden City is only about 5 minutes, and Ronald McDonald we walk to with all the food. So we definitely try to just minimize being in the car a ton. Packaging, as I said, that's our like main expense. And then when we like log the food, it also shows how much like carbon dioxide we're saved. And so a pound of food is about 2.5 pounds of carbon dioxide, I guess, not released. And so it tracks all the environmental friendly.
Cool. And I guess going into like just personally and professionally, like how do you feel that this organization has helped you just grow as a student and just future professional?
Well, this organization, it's really gotten me involved, like not only on campus, but I meet a lot of people I otherwise would not have seen. Like I'm usually just around undergrads all day, but I'm getting to interact with grad students, the people at the places we deliver to, and so that's been really awesome. It's given a lot of leadership experience because we're training shift leaders, and the shift leaders then go and train the volunteers. So that's just been really cool to see.
I think the perspective of taking resources that maybe are kind of like an excess or an overflow and we would kind of not necessarily utilize before, and then finding ways to implement them in kind of simple ways that then spreads the impact of what we could be doing. I've kind of taken that. It's funny, when we do service hours too, they make us do a reflection every single time, and it's that same question of how is this going to further your career. And I always put like, going forward, when I try to be a physician, if I have excess resources and I'm in a community like rural communities, and if I see something where I'm like, oh, I have this excess, maybe I can find a way in a similar capacity to then extend it out and kind of do what we're doing of repackaging resources and delivering it to those in need.
Yeah, I was gonna also actually kind of alley-ooped me there. Like as a med student, has your perspective changed at all in seeing how, I guess, like food impacts health and like the impacts of what you're doing?
Yes, yeah. I could get into a long discussion on like food and impact of health, probably more time than we have today. But I would say that's kind of one of the big things that when I'm looking at what specialty I want to go into, because I'm still a first year, so I'm not entirely sure. But I think that's definitely something that's influenced my decision, is seeing how if you're on a dining hall on a campus, you have access to food and you don't really worry about it, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to eat, if you want to eat more healthy stuff or if you want to kind of splurge a couple of bit some days. But when you go out into the community and you see, oh, they really don't have a choice. Like they have to buy kind of the low-end foods that aren't nutritionally dense. They don't have a lot of options for that, and how that impacts their health. And then you can kind of see that correlation when you go into a clinic and you see, oh, these people that are living in kind of these conditions, they're the ones that we keep seeing with these chronic diseases coming back. And I think there's a very strong correlation between nutrition and health, and I think that's another thing that's kind of motivates me to kind of pursue the whole trying to spread nutrition out and kind of help people reach that goal. Yeah.
And what about for you, Rachel? Even though you're still undergrad, like has that changed your perspective at all as you aspire to go into med school, I guess?
Yeah, it definitely kind of makes the idea that people are having real food insecurity a lot. Just you see it in person, which is something I hadn't before, and so definitely has given me more empathy there. And it's hard to see like us wasting a ton, and like a lot of times we'll have to like pick and choose, like because we don't have the resources to like take it all, and so it's what you just have to think like what would benefit the people the most. Like we usually try to at least save like the protein parts, but yeah, it's hard to see that people just don't have enough to eat around.
How can students, employees, or just anyone in Jag Nation help support you guys in what you're doing? What would be the best way if they're interested?
Volunteer, definitely. We need help packaging all that we can get. And the other thing too is if you're in a dining hall, I know when I was in a dining hall for at least my first couple of years at UGA, it's really tempting to just take a huge plate of food and be like, oh, I'm going to eat all this. Then you get halfway and you're like, and you put it on the food tray and you don't really think about it. But at the end of the day, that you're putting on that plate that gets thrown away could have been left over that we can then take to the rescue mission. So if you're going through dining halls, eat what you can eat, go back for a second serving, take small ones first, and I think those are both good ways.
I definitely agree with the volunteering. We sent up a sign out this morning, and we do it. We send them out for a couple months, so anyone, student, grad student, just anywhere on campus can sign up just for a slot they want.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me back to like how often are you guys volunteering? And for those who are curious, like what does that commitment look like?
So we have Monday through Friday, we have the dining hall at the atrium. Well, excuse me, Friday we actually take from Einstein's. And then once a week we have a shift at the hospital. That one's a little more involved. It's 2 hours. The other ones are just 1 hour, but you get more food from that one. So those are in the afternoon. The atrium ones are usually 8 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
I don't think there's any commitment. Like if you want to come 1 week and you're like, oh, this is cool, and you can come back. Or if you come 1 week and you're like, maybe not what I want to do, then you don't have to. I don't think there's any commitment with it. No.
Okay, so like an hour or two, maybe a week,
Yeah.
or just as their schedule permits. Okay. So switching gears a little bit about your student experience, I was kind of curious for you, Tom, so far. Like, has there been any like MCG traditions that you've been a part of so far as your first year?
MCG traditions. There's a lot that I've heard about.
Okay.
Not the most involved with them. Kind of like the typical go to school, study, not really do a lot of social stuff. I've heard a lot about like the class Olympics though. They're setting up Dr. Prom now. Are you asking about like what options we have to kind of like reach out or?
Or I was just curious, just from your student experience.
I haven't done a whole lot. Like white coat was probably the biggest thing that we did, which is mandatory, so
Yeah.
I had to. But I think MCG does a really good job of kind of allowing us time to, like there's module parties that they throw, so we go through like a couple months of content and then we have a module exam over that content. So everyone's studying and like cramming for a whole week, and then after that everyone goes out downtown or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And the MCGs kind of puts that on for us, so it's really nice. They allow us to kind of branch out, have social time, meet other people at the university. And also we do some simulations upstairs at our learning building, and they do a lot of interdisciplinary stuff, so we're also meeting PA students, we're meeting nursing students, so there's kind of a lot of integration with the campuses.
Nice. And for you, Rachel, has there been any like fun or memorable moments you've had, I guess, outside of volunteering with this org?
Yeah, I'm actually right now involved with the Warren College Ministries at Warren Baptist, and then sometimes I'll play at the Pikmin Club, which is pickleball, badminton. That's pretty fun too.
Yeah, I hear pickleball has been like picking up popularity here on campus.
I actually started taking the undergrad class for it, so.
Okay, you're one of the lucky ones, because I feel like there's like, I think I heard there was like a wait list or something, because people are really interested in pickleball so far.
It's like my favorite class right now.
They had a tournament like our second week of med school, and like everyone was dressing up for it. Yeah.
Nice. I need to go watch and see y'all interact. Another fun question that I was just curious to see what you guys might say, but if you had to create a playlist for your this year for school, what would the title of that playlist be?
That's a good question.
I didn't mean to stump you.
For the year.
Don't overthink it.
I feel like for me this semester is kind of like the calm before the storm, because it's like last semester a little bit lighter than what I've had, and then next semester will be back to more difficult. So.
Honestly, the only word I can think of is whimsical. Like it doesn't. Really, some parts of it feel very real. Other parts of it, it's like you step back and you're like, "Whoa, I'm in med school." Or like, "Whoa, this is happening right now." Or Anatomy Cadaver Lab will definitely do that to you. That one's interesting. And it just has its highs and lows, but yeah.
Okay. And now I have a fun little game before I let y'all go. It's becoming my favorite game that we do on the podcast. It's called Jag Yeah or Whole No. And I have some statements that I'm going to read. And if you've done it, I want you to say Jag Yeah. And if you haven't, you can say Whole No. So first up is during a late night study session, I have accidentally fell asleep.
Jag, yeah. Strong Jag, yeah.
I just try not even to study at night.
I gotcha.
But yeah.
Next up, I've once used a medical acronym in a text message to a friend and they had no idea what I was talking about.
No.
No?
I think I'm gonna say no. I might
Okay.
have used it. I don't think they knew what it meant, but they didn't say that.
They didn't. Okay, they didn't say anything. Okay, gotcha. I've once tried to diagnose a fictional character's medical condition while watching a TV show or movie.
Jag, yeah.
We had to do a paper on that basically.
Okay.
So,
What was the condition that you thought the patient had?
well, it was one that we already knew. I had to do a paper on monks' OCD. So.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
What about you, Tom?
I don't remember a specific one. Just watching kind of any medical drama TV show and like seeing it and seeing how they go through it. It's very interesting to see the way that they do it sometimes.
I gotcha. During studying, I've convinced myself I had a rare disease.
Jag, yeah.
Yeah.
Third week of school.
Third week of school, what did you think you had?
Some dermatological condition that like leads to pancreatic cancer, and they like called a dermatologist. Never got to see one. I kind of got over it. So.
I gotcha. Next up, I've completely dissociated during a lecture.
Jag, yeah.
No,
No?
I don't think so.
Give it time. It'll happen.
And then last up, I've participated in a group study session that turned into a party.
No.
No?
I mean, group study sessions always just turn into talking parties. You just
Yeah.
don't.
I stopped group studying in undergrad because
I cannot group study.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember too many group study sessions that I've had in undergrad.
They never go well.
They just don't work.
Yeah.
I remember the last one I had was in a pharmacy class in undergrad, and it like devolved after an hour into talking about the history of chocolate and like what % of cocoa was best in a chocolate bar.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks, y'all, for playing. Before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts about those who are interested in learning more about Food Recovery Network?
Definitely just come out, volunteer. Takes an hour a week. Hour a week can change a whole kind of week for an organization delivering the food to it. So come try us out. If you don't like it, you don't have to come back. If you like it, you're welcome to come back. You're always welcome. We're friendly people. So, yeah.
I'm sure they'll like it. Do you have anything, Rachel?
No, I mean, that pretty much says it. Like, we are just always open for volunteers and just ready if anyone wants to join.
Well, thank y'all so much. And for everyone watching, I really hope you learn more about the org and, like they mentioned, help them out and volunteer.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please, 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 if you have the time, volunteer with the Food Recovery Network. As you heard earlier in the episode, they would definitely appreciate all the help that they can get, and it doesn't matter of the time commitment. So reach out to them and check them out. And just in general, find different ways to be sustainable. Some things that I've done personally was start using a reusable tote bag. I have one in my car, one at home, one in the office. I also, for eliminating plastic grocery bags, I have a reusable tote that I bought on Amazon. And I recently just purchased some reusable paper towels. I guess they're not really paper because they're like microfiber. Y'all get the point. So, each year I try to be a little bit more sustainable than I was the year before. So those are some things that I'm doing, and I would love to hear about the things that you're doing. So let us know on social media. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and let us know how we're doing. But until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.